Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and my first attempt at doing a race recap for the Tour de France of 2023. I've seen some comments on my "Hey, have you watched the Tour Today" video, the PSA, and I agree with some of you, or yes, I agree with you when you say you don't want any spoilers on the thumbnails. So that bugs me as well. So I will be very careful not to do that. I need to find just a very innocuous type of Tour de France, maybe the logo. We'll see what I ended up with, and just a way to differentiate each stage. Anyway, so we're going to talk about stage 6 today, and there were several climbs on this that were pretty hard climbs, and climbs that have been used a lot in the Tour. As a matter of fact, the Tourmalet has been used 89 times out of 110 editions. So, you can do the quick math. That's about 80% of them. And then there was another climb that had the Col d'Aspin has been used like 55 times. So about 50% of the Tour de France editions have had the Col d'Aspin in there. Anyway, so let's do a quick summary before we go into the action. All right. It was a 145 kilometer stage, 144.9. Let's call it 145. And it was now remember, this is stage 6. Now they've done a ton of climbing in the first few days, because the stage 1 and 2 were in the Basque country and they were like 10,000 foot climbing days. But this was the first stage that was going to have a mountaintop finish in the Pyrenees. So, and I'm sorry, my pronunciations are not going to be all that great, but it's Cortaretz Cambasque, something. Sorry. Anyway, so the HC climb, the Tourmalet, and I think they said it's like the hardest stage, or the earliest they've had an HC climb, which is an ore category. So you have Cat 4, Cat 3, Cat 2, Cat 1 is already a very hard climb, but ore category HC climb is beyond category. And it was like 30 something years. I don't remember the exact details. You folks can make comments down below, Anyway, the Tourmalet was midway through the stage. So there was a lot of talk about what was going to happen with the breakaway, and, whether they were going to get to the line. So now let's also back up to stage 5. Stage 5, Jai Hindley, who won the Giro d'Italia just last year, he was in the break, a 35-man break, and I guess he kind of just snuck in there because of the chaos. So he got into this breakaway, and later in the stage, he attacks over the last climb, drops down, crosses the line, takes the yellow jersey, wins the stage. And everyone's like, wow, what happened? And also in stage 5, Jonas Vingegaard, last year's winner, attacked Pogačar, and dropped him and put time on him. So the way stage 5 ended was, let me make sure I get this right. So Jai Hindley in yellow from Bora Hansgrohe. You've got Jonas Vingegaard was 47 seconds behind him, and he had put 53 seconds on Pogačar. So that's how stage 6 started. All right, 3740 meters of climbing, so about 12,000 feet. Okay, 145 kilometer stage, right from the gun. Van Aert gets the draft of the race director's vehicle and just shoots out of the peloton and gets Alaphilippe is with him and a few other people, and they go hard to get away from the peloton. Quite a few people also trying to get across. Anyway, it turns out that at about 138 kilometers to go, the peloton just pretty much just goes across the road, and that's it. Everyone that's gone out is okay to go. So we had a 15-man break that Wout van Aert was in with Julian Alaphilippe, and then there was another breakaway of 5 trying to get across. Now, for EF Education, they had Neilson Powys, who was the former King of the Mountain jersey wearer. He missed that first break, so he really had to hustle, get in that second break of 5, and then eventually they all came together. So in that break, and Bora didn't make that break. So, if you don't know enough about how these things work, if you are the yellow jersey team, you have to control, you should be controlling the race. In other words, you're the yellow jersey team, your guy has X number of seconds or minutes over second, third, fourth, fifth rider. And if people go up in the breakaway, your team has to manage how much time gap that breakaway gets. Because if you let it go out too far, and someone who is very close to you in overall time, gets that time, gets to the line before your yellow jersey guy, you lose the jersey. And sometimes there's strategy. You let the guys go and you give away the jersey, as they say, right? So let's go back to the group of 15. There was, not just Wout van Aert, but also Mathieu van der Poel got in there. So Wout van Aert is sitting at 33rd, time of 8:26. So he's pretty far back. But Julian Alaphilippe was 7 minutes and 10 seconds back. So, they allow the breakaway to go, but you got to stay fairly close, right? And they did. They managed to keep that breakaway within 3 to 4 minutes. I think the biggest time gap they ever got was close to 5, but they just kept it within check. You had Matteo Trentin, which is on Pogacar's team, UAE team. You had 2 riders from UNO-X. Now, UNO-X, this is their first tour, so they really have to impress the race organizers and all this stuff because, hey, you've been invited to come to the tour, you got to make the race. You got to do something. And this is, when people ask, well, why are these people in the breakaway? They're never going to win the stage, or they're never going to win the tour, the 21 days of racing. It's a lot of sponsorship exposure when you've got your riders in the break for 4 hours. The commentators, the camera crew, everything is on those riders in the breakaway. So anyway, 2 riders from UNO-X got in there. And then James Shaw, which was an EF rider, was in there. Kwiatkowski from Ineos, and I won't list all of them, but there was 15, and then that other group of 5 came on. And when those other 5 came on, now you had 20 in the break, and that would have been all together, a very formidable force. Now, things that happen with breakaways. If you have 20 riders, you think, wow, this is awesome. There's 20 riders. And you look back at the peloton and Bora is only committed, sorry about the noise in the background, fire truck again. The 2 riders from Bora, it just depends how many riders Bora Hansgrohe is going to dedicate to managing that break. They had 2 riders. You're thinking, okay, there's 20 in the breakaway, so 2 against 20. The 20 should just, sail up the road. But what ends up happening is you get a lot of passengers. You get people in that breakaway that don't do any work. And the people who have a vested interest in making that breakaway get established and stay away, maybe are only, 4 or 5 at the beginning, maybe a few more once they, okay, wow, we got a minute gap. Let's keep, all right, maybe now I'll contribute. But if you have a 20-man breakaway, chances are not all 20 riders are working. And keep in mind that the strategy is if you've got somebody in the break, then your team doesn't have to work in the peloton to chase down the break. Well, in this case, Bora didn't make the first break, so they didn't have to work to chase it down, or they had to work to chase it down because they didn't have anyone in the break. All right, when you get those 5 across at about 122K to go, now it's all 20, and it's a 2 minute 50 second gap. At about kilometer 120 to go, they hit the first climb. It's a 5K climb, not a big deal. 5K, 3.1 miles. The time gap was 2:48, and it's a 5.6 kilometer climb, 4.8 average grade. Again, nothing really huge. But by that time, Neilson Powless, who missed the initial break of 15, he was part of the 5 that came across. He needed to get points, and he summits over that first climb and gets 2 points. Now remember, the easier, or in case you don't know, the easier the climb, the less points you get. So the harder the climb, the more points you get. Tourmalet is an HC climb. That's the most points you can get if you're on search, or if your mission is to get that polka dot jersey, the Maillot Pois. All right. So Powless takes 2 points because it's a Category 3 climb. At 114.9 kilometers to go, when they cross over the top, the gap is 2:53. So, it kind of stayed status quo, about 5-second difference, not much. There was some concern that the descent off the Tourmalet, which was the climb at about 64K to go, that it might have weather, but it didn't pan out. So the weather was fine. So in the back, in the peloton, chasing the break, how did they line up? Well, Bora had to take control of the race. They were first, then Jumbo-Visma, then UAE. And just a recap, Bora had Jai Hindley in yellow. Vingegaard, I apologize, my pronunciations aren't going to be great. Vingegaard was last year's winner. He was sitting in second place, and his team was second in line. And then Pogačar, UAE team, was sitting third in line. With 100K to go, there's a 3-minute time gap. So still manageable. And if you've been watching racing a long time, you kind of wonder, wow, these time gaps are so small. Usually on climbing stages like this, the gap blows out. 10, 15 minutes. They're not doing that anymore. So I'd like to hear your opinion why these time gaps are so short on breakaways. Anyway, they hit the Col d'Espagne with 88.8 kilometers to go. The time gap is now 3:26. This is the climb I said has been climbed 55 times in 110 editions of the Tour. 12K climb, 7.4 miles, 6.5%. And then the last 4 kilometers have the steeper grades, right? Now the thing to characterize the climbs, typically the Pyrenees have just steep ramps and they're not steady grades. And then the Alps are more long, flowing, wider roads, steady grades, longer climbs, without the punchiness of the Pyrenees. So just so you can get an idea of the two types of mountain ranges, the Pyrenees being steeper, sharper climbs, and the Alps being more gradual, steadier grades for longer periods of time. You know, you think about all the ski resorts and stuff in the Alps. So the 20-man break is still together as they hit the bottom of the Col d'Aspin. Now, Kasper Askren was from Soudal Quickstep. He was now setting tempo on these climbs, so Alaphilippe can just sit in. And so as they go on this climb, remember there was 20 of them, you eventually dropped Cosnefroy. Askren eventually drops himself. Matteo Trentin, he's kind of an all-arounder, but he does sprint a lot, or sprints for stages. Nikias Arndt from Bahrain Victorious, Brian Coquard, who is a sprinter, but he was in the breakaway yesterday too. And, you know, of course, a mountain stage yesterday and a mountain stage today. And then Perez. So both of these guys are from Cofidis. 12K climb, as I mentioned, with 4K to go, Jumbo-Visma gets to the front. Now, what's interesting is Jumbo-Visma gets to the front of the peloton, which has been reduced quite a bit. And Van Aert in the breakaway gets to the front and starts pushing the pace. And you're kind of wondering, okay, but both of these are Jumbo-Visma. I mean, either Van Aert should kind of slow down a little bit and let his teammates come up to him. But he was pushing the pace. Right? He was pushing the pace, and Christophe Laporte was in the peloton pulling. All right, 79.6 to go, 3:10 gap. And I mean, super quick. The Jumbo-Visma just kills. It had gone out to like 4 something. At the top of Col d'Aspin, 76.8. The gap now is only 3:11. Palace takes the points at the top. So he's back now in the virtual polka dot jersey. And EF Education, I mean, they don't have the budget that some of these other teams do. Their GC guy, Richard Carapaz, crashed early in the race. I forget which stage. So they don't have a GC guy anymore. General classification rider anymore. So now they're just going for stages and the polka dot jersey. So Palace now has taken the points on the Col d'Aspin with Bora. So Bora, as Jumbo-Visma is pushing the pace in the back, they're down to just 3 riders. You got Bookman, another guy, and so it's 3 teammates with Jai, and one of them is Bookman, who was at 1:11. So he wanted to kind of stay with that lead group, but yeah. All right. Also, what was interesting is there's 3,400 kilometers in this year's tour. They hit the 1,000-kilometer threshold, so a little bit less than a third through the entire tour, and it's now 6 days in. All right, the Tourmalet, that's the next climb that's up. The first, the first 9K are 5.7 average. Then there's a 7-kilometer section that's 9% average grade. So this is a good stout climb. It summits at 2115 meters. So in feet, that's like 6,938 feet. Let's just call it 7,000 feet. And the time gap at the bottom is 4:23. 17 kilometer climb at an average of 7.3. All right, Bora is still pacing at the front, or Bora gets back to the front, starts pacing. Alaphilippe, he attacks with 58.5 to go. The gap is 4:57, so now he only needs about 2 minutes somewhere, and we're 58 kilometers, so let's call it 60 kilometers from the finish. He needs 2 more minutes to get into the yellow jersey. He attacks and takes James Shaw with him. Well, James Shaw Chase. He's from EF. And then Wout van Aert gets to the front of that breakaway and sets a hard, steady tempo. And he closes the gap back up to Alaphilippe. And it's the funniest part. As he's coming up next to him, he looks over and he kind of gives a head nod like, hey, get back in line. It was awesome. So, Van Aert just gets up, closes the gap, and motions for him to get back on. So I just thought that was hilarious. During that climb, when Van Aert was setting the hard tempo, Van der Poel is off the back. So stage 7's a sprint stage. So maybe he was just saving his legs like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get anything out of this. Let me just back off. And tomorrow, because on the previous stage, there was a sprint and Van der Poel led out Jasper Philipsen in an incredible lead out, and it was a little argy-bargy as they call it, and so he got relegated. But I mean, he shot through this gap with Philipsen on his wheel, and Philipsen took the stage. So, Van der Poel is on lead out duty, so he needs to save his legs. So I'm pretty sure that's why he pulled out. By that time, that breakaway, that 20-man break is down to about 10 riders with 8 kilometers to go on the climb itself. Now, with 4 kilometers to go, Alaphilippe gets dropped. And you're thinking, well, you attacked at the bottom, you attacked midway up, and now you're getting dropped. So, Alaphilippe, I know, likes to ham it up for the camera. He's always making all these expressions and pulling faces, as Sean Kelly says, anytime he sees that the camera's on him. But, sometimes you got to just kind of temper your enthusiasm a little bit, and maybe you can stay on. So he attacked twice on this climb and eventually got dropped off of Van Aert's pace. So anyway, it also reminded me of when Van Aert won the double.
It's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock. When Van Aert won the double Ventoux stage at the 2021 Tour, stage 11, and Alaphilippe was doing all kinds of stuff and trying to get away, and Van Aert just kept a steady pace, and Van Aert won. You talk about a famous climb in the Tour, Mount Ventoux, and it was a double, so they went one way and another way, and he won it on a solo breakaway. He just rode everybody off his wheel. So stage 11, 2021, if you ever get a chance to watch that, that would be a good stage to watch. If you're a Van Aert fan, if you're an Alaphilippe fan, maybe not. All right, so with 50.7K to go, so 3.6 to go on the climb. The time gap is 3:22. Jumbo-Visma gets to the front of the peloton and just drills it, and then just destroys everyone that was there. So it was 2 riders from Jumbo-Visma, and you got Tadej and Jai Hindley. So 5 riders going up the road, everybody else decimated off the back. Now, Jai Hindley, the previous stage, in yellow, the previous stage, when he got yellow, again, it was a hard attack up over the last climb. Then he was alone, pushing wind all the way to the line. So you kind of wonder, how much did he blow himself up? And, you know, stage races is all about recovery. How well you recover from day to day to day. And then this cumulative amount of fatigue. So he couldn't respond when Jumbo-Visma went up the road with Sepp Kuss and Tadej Pogacar. Anyway, so he gets dropped. And now we're back to a two-horse race, as they say, Pogacar and Vingegaard going up the road. With 48.4 kilometers to go, 1.4 left on the climb itself. And remember that if there's a breakaway, the time and the placement, you know, so if it says 48K to go, that's for the breakaway. So you don't really know exactly where the main group is, or the peloton, or even just riders coming across. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, Jonas attacks Vingegaard. He attacks. Pogacar goes with. So now it's just them two. They go up and over the top. They summit the Tourmalet with, let's see, 47.1 kilometers to go. Jonas and Pogacar go up and over. And they have 2 minutes over the yellow jersey. So on the Tourmalet, it just completely, the wheels just fell off for Jai Hindley in yellow. So once they hit the Valley Road, it would make sense for Pogacar to work a little bit with Van Aert and Jonas, because if they work together, they can put more time on Jai Hindley. But you know, you look at Pogacar. You know, he's also thinking, well, I could save some energy, sit on. I got Van Aert in front of me, you know, big rider. I got Jonas in front of me. I'll just sit on, you know. But Jonas tried to get Pogacar to pull. He wouldn't pull. Good for him, by the way. All right. So now the final climb is 16 kilometers. About 10 miles, and Jonas, they got about 2:38 time gap back to the previous yellow jersey where, or the current jersey, yellow jersey where Jai Hindley. It's a 5.4% average grade, but there's just a lot of steep stuff later. There's 8.2 average, and then there's a 8.9 average, and then there's like a 11% average. The last third of the climb is the steepest part. Van Aert gets to the front. Now, this is a guy who's been doing, I mean, he established the break to begin with. He set tempo over Tourmalet for the breakaway and shredded that group. Now he is setting tempo for Jonas up the last climb of the day. I mean, this guy's just insane. So, a little factoid. It turns out that they went so hard up the Tourmalet, 17.1 kilometer climb, so let's call it, you know, pretty close to 11 miles. Jonas set the new time on that, of 45 minutes, 11 seconds. Now, another little thing, on yesterday's stage, so stage 5, when Jonas attacked on the climb that was, you know, like a 23-minute effort, for that 20 minutes, he, according to Jonathan Vaughters, when they do the backwards calculation, he weighs this much, the grade's this much, he's gone this fast. They figured out that his watts per kilo were about, or just shy of 7. Now, 7 watts per kilo is pretty high. As a matter of fact, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but that's getting really close to the EPO days. Now that was, of course, like 30 to 45 minutes. This is 20 minutes, a big difference. But I wonder if Jonathan Vaughters got that calculation right, because he says it was just under 7 watts per kilo. Now that's a lot, okay? But anyway, let's get back onto today's stage. With 5 kilometers left on the final climb, there's 7 riders. Van Aert's still pulling, and the time gap is 2 minutes 21. At 4.6 to go in the stage, which mountaintop finish, so that's what's left on the climb, and that's what's left in the stage. 4.6, he pulls off, and Jonas is trying to drop Pogačar. Well, Pogačar says, I'm not having that today. That's what you did to me yesterday. And he just attacks. I think it was like 2.7 to go. And yeah. So now, I mean, if you're not watching the tour, you're missing out on some really exciting stuff. Vingegaard attacked yesterday and dropped Pogačar pretty bad. Today, Pogačar drops Vingegaard pretty bad and goes in for a solo win. So, I mean, this is a really, really exciting edition of the tour. All right. So, at the end of stage 6, this is how it stands. You've got Pogačar. So Jonas ends up in yellow anyway, because they dropped the yellow jersey by 2:39. So Jai Hindley lost 2 minutes and 39 seconds on this stage. Anyway, so Jonas is now in yellow, 25 seconds ahead of Pogačar. Now Pogačar got bonus seconds, and I don't know, I think it was 10, and then Jonas got some bonus seconds, but because he came in so close, the difference isn't as significant. Jai Hindley, who was the yellow jersey, is now 134 back. Simon Yates, 314 back. Carlos Rodriguez from Ineos, 330 back. And Adam Yates, who was the original yellow jersey on stage 1, came in for, that was a great story too. You had Adam Yates, Simon Yates, 2 over the top, racing to the line. Adam wins the stage, drops his twin brother Simon Yates, and takes the yellow jersey. So he was the first yellow jersey wearer, and he wore it for, 3, 4, 5 stages. Anyway, Adam Yates is now 340 back. So the jersey's changed hands now. Let's see. So you got Adam Yates, you got Jai Hindley, and now Jonas has it. We're only on stage 6, and we've got three different riders have worn the yellow jersey. Now, every tour is kind of the same. The first few stages, sometimes a sprinter gets it. Someone wins the time trial, they get it. But things don't get real until you hit the mountains. And this is what I mean by real. The top 10 are now separated by 5 minutes and 28 seconds. This is huge for this early in the tour. We're only in stage 6. And they're already, the time gap between first and 10th is 5:28. I can't imagine what the top 10 is going to be separated by. We still got 2 more weeks. So I'm just curious what you folks are thinking about, for example, the stage 1 and 2 was in the Basque Country, and those two stages were really hard climbing stages, and a lot of people were already suffering. Then you bring in a sprint stage, then you bring in, I think it was like back-to-back sprint potential stages, then you bring 2 mountain stages in the Pyrenees, and I mean, some of these guys are already on their knees. They're off the back, they're dropping, they're losing time like mad. And so the race organizers really put it out to these GC guys that, I mean, yeah, time gaps are pretty significant. Okay, how am I doing? First time out, I don't really have a lot of analysis. I want to give you some opinion about, and I also just want to give, like I said, just my opinion my take on these race summaries. So I'm not an analyst, just a guy who rides a bike and loves bike racing and is passionate about it. So I thought I would provide an update. If you like it, give a thumbs up in the comments section. And if you've listened to the end, give that thumbs up, and then I know to keep going. There are other channels that are going to do a much better job at this than I am. One channel that I watch is Lanterne Rouge. I think they're great. And a few other folks. But anyway, just wanted to give a crack at it. And, for me, it's fun. I love the tour, but I love all bike racing for that matter. But the tour is the big one every year. So anyway, please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we will see you up the road.